Okay, in preparation for doing exercise number 5, I am actually going to show you the completed tutorials for 11.6, 11.7, and 11.8. 11.6 deals with product queries application, and so in this one they're going to work, well, we'll just go ahead and if you take a look, they are doing product queries. You could sort by price, and so if you take a look at the price, it's sorted by price, find products that have more than 100 units, and then you have, so it's doing what's called a query. It's selecting certain items out of the whole data set. So again, we go back to sort by price. You can see that there are several items in the list, and then if we do products with more than 100, etc. So in order to do that, let's take a look at what's happening kind of behind the scenes a little bit. I am going to be using tutorial 11-6 just to show you some of these things, but they would have created a project, and then they created a product data set, and then they connected that data set to our project. So when this project was created, you would have used or opened, I want to open up the Server Explorer window, pin that down, and I want to open up my other window, which is my database connection, the data sources window, so you can see that those two data sources and the okay, they're over here on the right hand. No, where are they at? They disappeared. Hold on. So we're going to attach that to the right hand side, and now I have to find my Server Explorer window, and we're going to tack this. If I highlight over this vertical bar on the left, I can tack it along the left. Nope, it will. I just have to get it anchored there appropriately. If I let go, it should anchor in there, and I should be able to, there. Now it's anchored, and I can do the same with my data window. So data sources, and we're going to tack it over here as well, and I want to stack them. It's not cooperating with me right now. Let's see what happens if I do that. There we go. Alright, so sorry about that, getting that kind of set up. Let me get this window squared away so you guys can see what's going on. So what you're going to have to do, so they would have done everything that we did in the earlier tutorials where they set up a data connection and they connected this data set and they've got a product table, etc. in here. Okay, but what happens if we take a look at the form, and I believe this one is in a data grid view. There's all kinds of different options that are available to you when you use a data grid view, as I showed you before. We want to look at the code though behind the scenes on how they actually got this to sort by price and how they got it to do products with more than 100 units. Okay, so if I take a look at this code, and this code is actually going to, it's in the textbook and it will be given to you, but if you take a look, you're using what's called a product table adapter, and this one's called a fill by price, and this one uses a fill by units. Those two are methods. Those are methods that are written, some of it's written automatically, some of it is controlled by you. And then there's a fill method. So each one of these, fill, fill by price, fill by units, are methods that are written behind the scenes using some SQL. In order to get to some of those built-in commands behind the scenes, what you do is you double click on this XSD file. And because I just downloaded these, it doesn't think they're safe. And you get a form that looks like this, and what you're going to do is, if you notice, those methods that we saw a minute ago are right here. They were created here by creating what's called a query. If I right click on the product, I need to right click inside here. We can add a query. And when you add a query, you're going to go through these steps, and you will have to do this for exercise number 5. You're going to use a SQL statement, and depending on what we end up doing, I'll show you some of those options. So I'm going to hit next. You're going to use a select statement, which returns rows, and that's going to be the option that you're going to want to do in exercise 5. And I click next, and it fills in a SQL command for us. So this is going to select the product number, description, units, and price from the product database. And if I click next, then it will automatically go ahead and create that for me. And then I have to choose what I want to do. We want to fill a data table, and it says method name fill by. This is where you would name your method whatever you want, your method. Now that's not what you're going to name it, but that's an example. That's where we want to put in the name. I don't want to name it fill by. Well, I suppose I could, because I thought I had one already named fill by, but I don't. So I could do fill by, which is fine. You're not going to want to return a data table, so you're going to deselect that when you get to that point. And I believe we can click next and click finish. And here is where errors will show up in the wizard. If something is not correct, you'll have to fix that. And then it adds that SQL statement to my list of product table adapter options. And so that's basically what you're going to be doing at the end of the chapter, but you're going to have a very specific one that you guys select. Now, because they do sort by price, etc., let's go ahead and look inside these. And we should be able to, actually I didn't want to double click on it. I'm going to, because that gets me to the code behind the scenes, and I don't want to do that. So let's go back, double click on XSD. I'm going to right click, and we're going to view the code. Nope. Right click, we're going to configure. So I'm not going to change anything, but we're going to see what they had chosen. So fill, get data, picks everything. So it gets the product number, description, units on hand, price from the data product. Okay. I'm not going to change that. I don't want to change anything there, so I'm just going to cancel. Fill by price. We're going to configure. And again, what that's doing is just showing us how they set this one up. So this one is a select statement. Notice the SQL commands are all capital. It's going to select each of these fields. These are the different fields in the data set that you're working with. From is a SQL command. DBO product is my database name. And then order by price. Now, order by price is a specific command that it actually has built in. I don't know why part of that is not capitalized. But it's not. And cancel. And lastly, let's look at what the query for fill by units looks like. Actually, I'm going to cancel that because I must have chose something different. I want to configure it. I don't want to add a query. Again, select, and it's going to select all of these fields: number, description, units on hand, price from the DBO product. Where, this is where you're going to have a command that looks like this. Where, now this one has units on hand is greater than 100. Units on hand is a, notice it matches right here. Units on hand is the name of that particular field, and they're using that field name, units on hand greater than 100 there also. Alright. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of what it looks like behind the scenes with some SQL. We'll look at another tutorial before you do number